Good evening. Welcome to the School Building Committee meeting for November 18th, 2014 for the Georgetown Middle High School project. Our first order of business will be to approve the minutes from October 14th, 2014. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the Middle High School Building Committee meeting from October 14th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on these? No? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. What did I say? 14. All right. Next are our monthly invoices. So for the middle high school project, our invoices for the month total $59,176.50. And that includes monthly invoices from municipal and DRA, and includes 3 PSSs from DRA and a Copeland and Page invoice as well. Does anybody have any questions on any of these invoices? They were all circulated.
I didn't get to see.
Oh, they were attached to all the information that Chuck sent out.
Yeah, they were attached to the middle school
I think they were sent on Thursday or Friday.
Friday. Pembroke went out on Monday.
I missed them. I'll abstain.
Okay. Did you get the email, Juno?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't get that attachment. I didn't download that attachment.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the middle high school invoices in the amount of $59,176.50.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, and this is the one, all right, so I have to use my. Chuck forgot all the backups, so if you guys can just sign this and leave that with Chuck, that would be great. Okay, Chuck, do you want to give us an update on the budget?
Well, the short answer is you're on budget, which is good news.
That's always a good way to start.
Like to hear that?
I always start with the good news. There is
Yep.
no bad news, so I shouldn't paraphrase it like that.
Okay,
The estimates were prepared as part of the 60% submittal. Submittal was made to the MSBA on time. We're waiting for comments back. We should get them any time now. They did call me, and I have met with them regarding the submittal. Nothing major in the submittal. The only thing they questioned us was in the alternates. As you all know, there's 2 alternates that Courtney's going to speak about in a few minutes. There's 2 alternates that are included into the project that we're pricing. One is to replace the science room classrooms, and the other one is to replace the skylights where you have screen doors and things hanging from them now. So we hope that the bids come in good so we can get rid of those and clean it all up for you. But I'll have her go over those. So the bottom line is we reviewed the estimates. The estimates have been reconciled. I can say that we were within a few $100 to estimators even before they sat down to reconcile. So it was very good news. Within a few $100. So it was very good. So it was all good.
That's
So
great.
it's all very positive. Things are going well. And like I said, we should get the full comments back from the MSBA. I expected them today, so I'm sure they'll come in tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
And then we'll respond to them and send them back.
They're busy getting ready for a board meeting tomorrow.
They are. There's a big board meeting down there tomorrow. So that's it on the
Right.
budget.
Okay.
The 2 alternates that came up were during discussions with meetings with staff, while we were working on programming and design discussions, and just site observations that we had. The first one, alternate 1, is the science classrooms, and actually the picture on the bottom, not the picture on the top. You can see all these glass block walls. The science rooms are actually 4 foot below grade, so these glass block walls are actually up high, and they're considered windows in those spaces. It's fairly cold in those rooms. There's no natural, there's natural light, but it's very dim because of these glass block walls. So they mentioned in a meeting, we said we'd put in an alternate and price it. It's not a lot of effort for us to do that, to show the estimators what it would take to put new windows in. The reason why it's so high is because it involves mechanical work as well. You can see there's exhaust fans that are coming through these windows right now.
Yeah.
So there's some HVAC work that's associated with that in addition to just putting a
This is
storefront.
the back side of the school, the uphill side.
Right.
And these are the windows we're talking about. They all look like this right now, glass block. This is the proposed, elevation. And you may not be able to see it, but in each of these, because the ventilation in these rooms is provided through the window, through the wall, there are louvers that need to be integrated into each of these, and because we're touching the louver, it affects the ductwork and a little bit of mechanical upgrade too. So is involved in that alternate, but it's for those, is it 3 science
Right.
rooms? 1, 2, 3, on the up toward the side of the school.
Okay.
There's windows there.
It doesn't get much sun anyhow because of
No.
the mountain, right?
Correct.
Right.
The trees.
Oh, it's, the hill is right behind it, is it?
It's right in
Mhm.
there.
It's right near the hill, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How does this affect the, the budget?
That's
Well, the
$100,000.
alternate was priced at.
No, I know it's 100,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The,
In terms of,
the pricing on
These
the
are
sheet
extra.
here, Jim,
Those are
explains
extra.
that the upper number was the base bid without the alternate.
Okay.
So the bids would have to come in lower in order to afford this.
Oh, okay, all
Right.
right.
That's why we have them as.
right,
Oh, okay.
Right.
This, if the
Things
bids come in
swing.
low enough, then we would think about doing this.
Correct.
Right,
Right.
right.
It would be your choice after the fact.
All right.
Right, so this is just including it as an alternate, and
Correct.
when we put it into the MSBA, they can either say, that's great, but we won't pay any of it.
Well,
or-
they actually called me that already this week. And
Oh.
Pretty clear they wouldn't.
They
Okay.
would not, because as you remember, when we set a scope and budget for the
Yep.
project, it did not include these skylights.
Yep,
The skylights
yep.
that she's gonna speak about in a minute, and these windows. It
Okay.
was only after we got into the project to really investigate the whole area that the windows came up as a good idea to do. If you have the time, you have the money, you should do them. The MSBA said, we understand that, but these are all 100% on you, there's no share in this.
Yep.
And the estimate, original estimate to the town was how much for construction?
Total.
For construction, we were at $5,800
It was
for
very close to
construction.
Very close to this
5,897.
Yeah, we
I
were
remember.
5861.
yeah.
592.
Or,
Something
I
like
thought
that, the
58, well,
original.
all right, yeah. So right about 5,800,
It's
or 5,800,000, sorry,
5.8.
5.8 million, sorry.
No, it's actually not.
not your monthly.
How
Oh,
many
yes, it is.
skylights is it gonna be?
It's,
Many skylights?
It's about, I think it's
Uh,
about
5,861.
12. I
Get
have
there in a
Right.
second.
right, so it was 5,861.
And $90.
Right, so 5,861,000. And then, so, but our contingency, we have 580,000.
Correct.
So when, just thinking down the line, say, that we come in pretty close to our budget when we go out to bid, when can we decide on the alternates?
We have to decide on the alternates
At the time
before
of
you
bid.
award the contract. So you'll
Whether or
have-
not they're definitely gonna happen?
Yeah.
You
So-
go out to
But, so,
bid.
but we
You go out to
have,
bid with the drawings,
Right,
Correct.
and
and you
then you'll
get them in.
get the base bid, and then you get alternate one, and you have to accept or reject that, and if you reject it, you can't have any of the others.
Right, you have to
Right,
take them in order.
Right.
So one of the
Okay. So you
So you
questions-
decide which one
But
is
you do it at the
important,
time you
most
get the
important.
bid.
okay, but then once we get the bid in, then we can decide if we're gonna take it or not.
Correct,
Right.
Okay, so we just prioritize our alternates.
correct.
Okay.
And what's gonna happen with the glass blocks that are in already?
Thrown away.
They'll go
Okay.
bye-bye.
They're old, they've been there a long
Recycle.
time,
Yeah,
they're
they'll
past
recycle
their
the
use.
glass.
So you wanna explain the second alternate?
The skylights are above the science rooms on the top floor, the middle school, currently middle school science rooms
Yeah,
up there. There's 12 of them. Actually, these 8 are over the science rooms, these 4 are over the teachers.
Well, those are still the
Oh,
science
no, I'm
rooms.
sorry, those are still the science rooms too, the teachers' rooms down there, but, so there's 12 of them. They're about
3 by 5.
3 foot by 5 foot. And in the plane of the ceiling right now, because the heat gain is so intense sometimes that they've sort of hung screen doors or some kind of fabric or something to shade them
That's the image.
themselves.
right.
which
Did you come on the tour with
sort
us
of is
when we-
makeshift, but I guess it works right now. But the thought is, one, we're redoing the whole roof. It would be nice to redo the curbs and the skylights at the same time. You could leave them. We're adding a couple inches of insulation, so it shrinks the height of the curb by that much too, which isn't a great idea because if you get snow or water piled up, it affects the weatherproofing. But moreover, we could change the glass type so that it's more translucent and not quite quite so
Yeah.
And
transparent.
the rooms that are in there are,
Science
Science
room.
room.
There's signs.
And the
Yeah.
picture you're looking at is standing on the roof, looking down into a skylight, and they've suspended these screen doors and put contact paper or,
so,
Right.
so here's just a question. I mean, do we even need them?
The skylights?
Yeah.
Yes, those are internal rooms.
With no
They-
windows.
No
No
natural
windows.
light. It's nice to have them there. Yeah, so it's good to have natural light. We just don't think you want clear skylights up there.
So is
We put-
I'm just
MSBA
going by history that
Mm-hmm.
natural light is all blocked off.
Well, no, it's not totally, I mean, it's made translucent.
Diffused, yeah.
It's diffused by
You're getting
the
something through there.
screens.
Really diffused.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a lot.
They
Well, I
literally
mean, it's like
have
taking,
screen
taking a
doors.
piece of paper
Yeah.
and putting it up there, Jeff. The sun still, the light still gets
You
through.
still get
some.
something through
You
there.
get it, yeah.
Some-
So is this eligible for MSBA reimbursement too?
Probably not.
No.
Because again, it wasn't part of the scope at the time of the schematic.
So these are being proposed because we came in under budget?
We're
We
not
were
under
close to the
budget.
budget.
Not,
No.
not yet on the budget, right, yeah.
And it sort of came up during discussion of the re-roofing, as well as the faculty and the administration brought it up.
It
about
came
the
down to one of those
interior.
things that if everything went the way you want it to go, then this would be the right thing to do at the time. But the budget being the budget is, it says, okay, these are options to you. You can live without them, but if it works within your budget, we're suggesting that you consider it.
So
So-
at this point, we're just looking to include it as an alternate. When we go out to bid,
Correct.
and we know what the cost is gonna be for everything, then that'll be the time that we actually vote whether or not we're gonna do it. We don't have to do it, we're just saying that we're gonna include it as an alternate at this time.
We actually need votes from you,
The
yeah.
order too.
So are
We
these
actually-
gonna be clear, the
Oh.
new one's gonna be clear?
No, we would recommend them be translucent.
or silk
Because
screen
the
it.
clear light is bothering.
It's too intense.
Yeah.
Is too intense.
It'd be form
So
of
we're
total glare.
basically turning it into a fluorescent light with a diffuser.
I mean, if you do a silk screen pattern, you can reduce the glare and still get, some visibility, but
And are these original skylights? Have they,
these were done in 1996.
okay, so, I know skylights have
A lifetime.
What kind
an
of,
end of their life.
Isn't
really.
part of the
What
issue
kind
too,
of
wasn't it the
protection
heat from the
will
sun?
they have
That
with
they
the
got,
snow?
it got really hot in those
The
ones.
snow?
What kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, how will that affect,
Well, what Carl was talking about is the skylights are actually on a flat roof surface. They're actually popped up a little bit higher so that when there is water on the roof or snow or whatever, they're protected somewhat. And it's usually 18 inches above the level of the
this is
roof.
the picture, right?
Yeah,
It's
so
sort of
Doesn't
looking
look
down.
it's looking down at it, so it's not a
You
good
can't-
side
So you
view.
can't
You
see
can't
the
see
depth
the
of it.
elevation,
Can't see the
but my
pop-up.
concern would be how good is this seal to prevent
Yeah, they're
any
not leaking.
vapor?
They're-
They're not leaking right now, that's not
Right.
the issue to it, but, if we were to add insulation, it becomes a little more of an issue that it's not quite as high as we would
So they're
do.
about 20 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
1996.
pretty much reached their end of their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You probably get to the point where you
I-
have to start
that's
recapping
skylights
them
in
again.
Yeah, I mean, either you're gonna need to replace them or get rid of them, one or the other. 20 years is pretty long.
Especially if you're putting a new roof on the building.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we've had like 10 years of problems with water.
Right.
Right.
So
Those things you wouldn't
that's
want.
why I'm asking about the snow and the melting and the vapor gets in there and, you know.
Right. And we've had a roof scan done, an infrared roof scan to identify where the wet insulation is on the roof. And it's not actually in these areas, which is great news. It's all isolated over towards the east side, the northeast side of the school where the satellite dish is, if everyone knows where that is, sitting on the
Yeah,
roof.
the connector to the band room and
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually, that report's in the 60% submittal if you all would like to look at it.
We actually need votes to whether or not you want to go forward with the alternates and also the vote of the order of the alternates. So in case you only got to choose one, which would you choose?
Okay, so these are our first two alternates that we've had to consider. So
These
far
would
for
be
this
the
The
only
project.
only ones.
The only ones.
Okay.
Well, let me then ask another question before we vote, because I don't quite understand it. The alternate is to replace the skylights, and if we don't do that, then what's the,
The original ones stay, and we just
Roof up.
flash into them.
and how high is the curbing on that?
I have to go measure it again. It was pretty high. I think it was like around 18 inches, but, and minimum is 8 inches to maintain a roof warranty, but we preferred it for it to be a little bit higher.
And could you just review the primary drawback of these glass blocks if we're gonna have to choose between these?
The only, the
Prioritize.
two drawbacks are, one, they're not as, they're not great at insulating, so it is cooler on that side of the room. And then two, they don't have there's no views outside those classrooms right now. And they would be looking at the vegetated hill next to it.
At least you get some
So-
sun,
But
you will
at
get
least-
some light through
Yeah,
there.
you
won't
get some
sun,
light,
but
you won't get a
light
lot
through
of,
there.
you're not gonna get direct sun, it's on the
You
east.
also won't feel like you're in a cave.
So is your suggestion to do it in the order that you put it in?
These
One
are
and two?
just the order that they came up.
That's
It-
just
It's,
chronologic.
Okay,
We
Right.
weren't
Okay,
passing
so-
judgment on them.
okay.
Do you have a recommendation though?
Typically, as Jeff said, you have to accept them in order that you can afford them. So if with a discrepancy, well, one's 100, one's 45, you'd put the lower cost one first to give
Okay.
you more flexibility of potentially accepting both.
right.
Because say the bids came in 50,000 under, you couldn't afford to do number one, and because you reject that, you can't do number two.
Right.
So if there's not a strong reason otherwise, then generally you want to have some flexibility, put the lower cost one first.
See, I think that personally, I think that the glass block windows are the higher priority, for me at least. And, because that's just really bad for all those rooms that are down there.
Mhm.
And the skylights, I mean, to me, you're not seeing them right now. You're gonna film them, so you probably won't even be able to see if there's clouds or sun or blue sky. I mean, you probably see color, but that's about it. So you might as well just have some lights in there versus this, so. I mean, I don't know the exact rooms, so I'd have to look at that at some point to really get the opinion, but, it's almost like you just need a nice lighting or a nice ceiling in those rooms to give it a little excitement rather than a potential leaker down the road. 'Cause these things always.
So what are you saying, not to do the skylights
Meet
at all?
again before they go out, right?
So you take the
That's
skylights
why
out,
they try to
put
go
lights
to
in.
bed.
Yeah.
Because we have 2 meetings
Well,
before they go to
That
bed.
takes out the natural light and there's no
We
windows, so
just-
these are,
I know. it's
These are-
a tough
these are
one.
But once
inside.
you filter it,
But
it's
once
not
you
natural
film it,
anymore.
you might as well, I mean, not these, but the old fashioned lens, lights. I mean, in fact, in some malls, they're getting away from skylights and they're putting in these lenses and lights up above to fake you out, to make you think that it's the outside, but it's not, and it's all enclosed, and it's cheaper, and it's, better, so you don't get leaking to it, so that's just why I'm questioning it, whether it's worth it or not, but again, I don't remember the rooms, so.
I remember we had like $14 million worth of alternatives that were rejected by MSBA to
Right.
get us down. But I just don't recall seeing windows as coming up as one of the priorities back then. So I'm wondering what was on the list of some of those other,
We didn't bring that list, I know
That's
exactly
trying
what
to
you're talking
remember.
about, but, one of them was heating in the admin reception area, to have heating next to the windows there. One was add a sink in the administration area. There were several other random HVAC and plumbing ones that weren't necessity items as required to be now. They were would-be nice items, similar to these. These are would-be nice items. The reason why we're presenting these tonight is because they came up during staff meetings and reviews with, the principal, and while we were in there talking about the other science rooms, he asked, well, are the science rooms on the other side, are those windows being done? Because we're doing the science rooms on the chorus and the art room, the windows on the
Yeah.
chorus and the art room side. He's like, what about these other glass block windows? I said, we could price it as an alternate. It's not a lot of work for us to do that, to get the estimator to look at it. So that's the reason we're presenting them tonight. And they were not included on that previous list.
yeah, because I remember back then there was a lot of discussion on how we, what
I mean-
alternates we pare down, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see the list and say, oh, but that was really a big part of the discussion.
I mean, I agree. I think it's a good question. We should see the other ones. I think just going back to this while it's still fresh in my mind, I'm thinking how to approach it. I would not recommend that you leave existing 20-year-old skylights up there, because I think that they're gonna leak, or they're gonna break down, or they're gonna lose their seal. 20 years is a long time for these things. These are just made of plastic, so, you know, basically. So maybe the base bid should be that you eliminate them, okay, and you roof over. And then take your pick as to which one you want as an alternate, you know. Personally, I would say you put the windows as the first alternate and then the skylight as the second alternate. But in either case, I think that the base bid should probably be just get rid of them, because we can't just leave them there, or else, you know, Carol's gonna have a problem day one after we just renovated the whole place. So,
We are doing that to a couple skylights
Yeah.
over here.
I mean, if we
So
want
we
it,
have
we
the
want them.
Detail already.
And if we can afford them, we'll take them, but if we can't, we have to have a fallback, and I think we have to get rid of them in the base bid, and then,
What would the price be to
Take care
get
of
rid of?
It-
estimate on
It's
that?
not,
It's
it's,
not appreciable, it's not.
I don't think that's
It's not
appreciable.
it's not at all,
In
because
fact,
they're gonna
it's
roof
probably
right
a
over.
wash, 'cause you don't have to redo.
You
all
don't
the
have to cut
curb
everything
areas
and-
with
Lot less
flashing
work.
and-
You gotta
It's
put in
the-
some metal deck.
But still, there's a cost, you know, whatever it is.
I don't think so. What I'm
it's
saying is, I
probably-
think that the cost to do all your flashing up and around these things,
Yeah.
you know, 'cause you
It's
gotta,
like detail
Moving the
work.
gate
it's all
and- yeah.
detail
Oh,
work,
so
that's
it
expensive.
subtracts from
So
the
you take all that
flashing
out,
right.
and then just put in a piece of deck and,
And you have less holes in your new roof.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's probably less than 10,000, put it that way, George,
Yeah.
if it's not a
Yeah, I
lot.
think you'd do the
If
base.
it's not.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
get rid of them and then.
Yeah.
The thing, we would have to add lights, like you said.
Yeah, you'd have
Right.
to do lights.
Inside.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That's
You'd
why I
have to add
say
more lights,
it's
so.
And a
probably
special kind of
10,000 or
light.
something.
Right.
You know, that particular kind of
Right.
light we were talking about.
Carol, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
I don't know that,
LEDs.
I haven't heard a lot of advocacy that they're necessary. I mean, obviously, if they add value through light, and we
Yep.
can replace them with light that's at least appropriate,
Yeah.
that way, and we resist, I have skylights in my house, and they are a challenge. So, I think we'd be fine.
With going with that, so eliminating the skylights if we have to.
Just eliminate them in the base right away, and then add them back if we have money.
Yep. Okay, so would you like to make a motion?
And I would like to
Jack?
talk about the other,
No, Kristen.
No, go ahead.
the glass squares, cubes.
Down in the science rooms?
What about vandalism if you put a window that low? Is there a
It'd be
camera over
tempered
there?
glass, down there.
Yeah,
Fortunately, there's not a lot of traffic back there.
Yeah.
You know,
Do we get security back there?
There
Do you need
are,
tempered glass, or could you just have, I mean, you have your
well, there are,
volumes, your horizontal
well,
volumes.
Well, there are-
we'd recommend tempered just because it
With an
really
18
is close
inches
to
of walking
grade.
surface.
and there's awning windows.
Just even a
So-
stray
Got
rock or
cameras?
snow shovel
Peters
or
had got a
something.
series of cameras around that school. I don't know how many.
There are some cameras out back, but there's
Yeah.
also, lights mounted on the school, so it's a little, at one point, there were some issues with vandalism, but it was really because a lot of the lights were out, and it is pretty secluded back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of mischief can be going on back there, and no one knows about it, so, I don't know if the issue of security would come up
Mm.
because of the regular,
Well,
windows
do
as
the
opposed to-
windows open, or, they'd have to,
They
I mean,
have,
I'm trying to think,
Yes.
aren't those windows up, like if
No,
you
none
were-
of the
if you were
current glass
standing on the
block
ground,
No,
I
those
don't
blocks,
know,
those
but
blocks are like a wall.
proposed one, you have some operable sections.
We're talking about.
I mean, here's a real opportunity that you
Yeah,
have.
those, oh, okay, so I see
Replacing
what
all
you're
of
doing,
those.
yeah.
The proposed
Yeah,
ones
because
have
the
some
rooms are down
operable
below.
sections.
Correct.
Yeah, here's a real opportunity that you have. I mean, we have
That's a good point.
classrooms actually in there that
Right.
have, you know, a wall.
An
So
opportunity for
windows
view.
there are great, I think. I think that is a positive thing, so I'd fully support that one.
How
And I think
about
that
that?
one should go
What
first.
would you support?
I would support the glass if we had the money for
Regular
windows.
windows?
Yeah.
What about the sizing? It looks like, the bottom is very low. I mean, if there's flash flooding,
That's
Well, we're
all
redoing
being-
that
Right.
area,
We're doing the
George,
whole
so
area,
it's
right?
gonna pitch away from the
Yeah, that's a good
building.
question I was gonna ask.
We're adding drainage there.
That's part of the, part of the moisture
we
issue.
have to
Yeah.
ru-
You're actually lowering the grade there.
Yeah.
Good.
You're lowering the grade and bringing it into more or less a
Okay.
trench.
So this grade is gonna be lower?
And
That's right.
sloping away.
And sloping towards the middle of that drive to pick up all the water.
All right.
Away from the
And
building.
away from the
So what
building.
do you think was, I mean, as architects, why was that designed that way when the renovation was done? Well, I mean, is that a
With
typical?
glass block?
Yeah. Was it for security, do you think?
I think
Was that
those-
done at the?
There's a
No, I
service
think those
drive.
might have been there from
Those have been there
50
since the
years ago.
Those are the
50s.
original-
Yeah.
I think
those
it was
are the
probably
original
used
Those
designs.
are-
So then-
Style.
Sounds like
We're
What
just
would
gonna
have been
stop
done in the
them.
They're on the front of the building.
They didn't have the same respect for teachers and
building
students. 2 years ago. They thought it was basement space, so they,
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
designed at the time.
they put industrial
That's the
glass
answer.
block, yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't any, like, logistical reason, like, it is about security.
No.
Design term.
Just the
I'm
style.
sure some of that probably
Well,
came
some
in.
of that because it's
Yeah.
close to the
Yeah,
ground.
because it's close to the ground and
Back
it's
then, that's what they would
durable
do.
and it's, you know,
Probably
stuff
cheap.
like that. And plus you don't see people walking by that you're looking up at from the
Yeah.
underside and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So probably all those reasons.
Because it is so close to the ground, would you ever do like, make the windows half the size and do like building materials on the very, very bottom?
We do.
Well, that's what we're talking about, trying to lower the grade a little bit to get a little bit more solid wall before the base of the window.
I think
Yeah, but
she's
I
talking
mean-
about reducing the amount of windows
Right.
that you have and
Like,
put in more
what we
solid.
tend to
but-
do is
Like a
put like a
You said
spandrel
the floor
glass
level
or-
in there is, another 4 feet down.
I
Those
know, right.
windows are already like up here.
But I'm thinking actually kind of to Tilly's
If
point,
you put
reducing
more
the,
solid material, you get very little glass left.
well, how,
inside.
is that like 4 feet? How,
Yeah, the sill is
It's around 4
it's
feet.
4 feet? So what about
4.5
if
feet high,
you,
maybe, it's about here.
if you, like the bottom, I don't know, 1.5, 2 feet was a solid building material and then you just had 2 feet or 2.5 feet
No.
of,
I wouldn't do that.
How does it
No.
go with
The
the
openings
snow
are-
when you're
I think it's
Existing
good. I think
openings.
it's good. The only thing that you could do with it that I think you're bringing up is, if you had an infill that, so you bring it all the way down to the curb that's there because your grade's going to go down and you wouldn't have any
Yeah.
problems. But maybe you put some panels in between that are solid to reduce the cost. But I don't know how much you'd save. It's only a pop-in window, so
It's not a lot.
We have
Not
a
a
little
lot.
bit of infill because we got louvers, but a solid area. It's not totally all glass, column to column.
okay.
There's a few solid areas, but, and also we can put a slightly higher sill piece in too at the bottom.
Like a
so
4-inch on the bottom of the base or something.
We get a little bit better
So Carl, when you
positive
say
drainage.
tempered glass, is that significantly more sturdy
Yeah,
than regular glass?
Harder to break,
Yeah, it's harder to break.
so
Well,
like a
Is it
pebble
comparable
or,
to what we're doing at Pembroke in the foyer, or is that even
it's not
more?
that high strength. That's hurricane glass.
That's hurricane,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
At the entries of
at
Pembroke.
the entry, that's,
At the other windows on the ground floor, we're doing tempered glass,
okay.
but at the entries, we're doing hurricane rated glass.
Yeah, I remember.
what's being done here as far as the ground surface? Is that going to stay as a
It's still
pavement?
paved,
Yeah.
because we need to, it's sort of a fire lane, even though you can't drive a fire engine under the bridge, to get back there. It's still.
We're not
for the
lowering it
access
that
of
much.
Fighting fires.
You can
Does it
bring-
get plowed in the winter,
You
do we
can bring
know?
hoses and everything.
It could, there's a door at the very end of
it
this
must because all
run,
the kids walk.
there's some doors right there, so it needs to get plowed.
There's an overhead door too, as you go all the way down for
Yeah.
the,
Because
Yeah.
they
Loading
have to be
egress.
able to exit out the
Yeah.
So you
back.
guys say
It's
you have
under-
to keep it shoveled.
Yeah.
I think something
Right,
has to
as an-
happen.
as an
As an
emergency.
emergency. I
Yeah,
think
there
there
are
has to
2
be
door
something.
egress doors
There
on the
has to be
backside.
something.
But I don't
So,
think people use it
We
in the
wouldn't want
winter.
glass that, like, plowed snow could break.
That's what we're saying, that's why tempered glass would
Okay.
help making it stronger there in case,
Okay.
typically they're gonna plow it away from the building, but
Right.
you never know.
So I would
Okay.
probably make the proposal that, or the motion that we, in the base number, we include the removal of the skylights and continuation of the new roof to go over that. And then alternates 1 and 2, and anybody can change it, but alternate 1 and 2 would be as presented here.
So it would be
Second.
the science
Do you want
classrooms.
to change the
and-
order?
No, that's,
Oh,
I
it's
think
good.
I'd
Read
rather
the
have the
order.
windows here than the skylights personally.
Right, because he's saying to take out all the skylights
Yeah.
to start with, so,
If we have enough money, then we'll put them back in again,
okay.
but the right way.
Chuck, did you get that?
I got it.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah.
Second, okay. Any more discussion on this? Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. So we will look to,
Good.
change, so you'll change that base before
Take a
you,
direction.
submit that then to the MSBA.
Thank you.
Next is you have update on your schedule. The only thing we'll give you on the schedule is, Courtney won't have Thanksgiving or Christmas, but she'll meet the schedule. So much so that Carol and Peter and Pat and myself met in Peter's office last week. We've always had concern that there's quite a bit of work that has to be done next summer. So a year ago, we met with Peter and with Carol, and they were good enough to give us some areas before As you might remember, we're starting in April in some areas and finishing late in the fall in some other areas. So they're able to give us more or less the gym work to start off in April. As we were going through the drawings and getting more and more involved in the how would we build it, we got even more concerned with schedules. So we met with them again and said, if you had to give us some more rooms, what could you do? And they were both amazing, and I'm not saying this because she's sitting here. They were very good to tell us that, yes, there are things that we can do. We wanted to put it in front of them. There aren't specifics of what they would do, but they have some ideas and some plans in their head, which is very good. That's all we needed to know. We didn't need to know specifically what they would do. We'll leave that to them. We're there to help and guide them, but we were looking for some relief. We ran a little late on the end. What could we possibly do? So that's good. We're going to build that into our sort of construction type of schedule and go from there with it. So we appreciate that very much. That really gave us a little bit of a sigh of relief. Don't get us wrong. That doesn't mean we're going to keep our foot off the gas. It's all about getting it done on time and right on schedule. But we needed that buffer. We just got more concerned as we started to get into the details.
Yeah, well, that'll probably reflect in the pricing probably too for.
It could. It could.
It's-
Very much
We
so.
hope so, that we
It's-
pick
it's
sort
a
of the
good market.
optimal time,
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
they don't have to double up in the summer or something.
The key is why it's the push is on to get it, why we've always pushed, and Carl and Courtney have always agreed, why we've always pushed to get that just the bid as quick as we can, because you want to line up roofers who are always busy in the summer, and you want to line up getting the ordering done for any of the windows, because the windows can take a long lead time.
And
So we want to get this done right up front.
Yeah, and it's helpful to start early for submittals, because it takes us
Correct.
time to review all the products that they're submitting for construction.
So
too,
therefore, hitting with the bid schedule that we have of getting it right out, right after the first of the year, more or less, it's really a good timing.
Yeah,
Push
windows are really out there right
Mhm.
now.
Amazing
Yeah.
amounts, 12, 13 weeks in some
Yeah,
places, it's even
exactly.
longer.
Exactly.
We'll see. So, we've sort of trying to build in these stopgaps if things happen like that, so I think we're in pretty good shape.
So you got, so does that mean, well, that can't mean early packages then?
Nope.
You can't do that.
Nope.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
still on one bid package,
Yep,
but
yep.
there's early phases to it.
We've talked to, we have in our office, talked to a number of the contractors that are about this size that do this kind of work, that we feel really good that we've worked with. We've talked to all of them, and they all seem to be very intrigued by it, because it's a good timing schedule for them. So that's good. So,
So when's it going out? Oh, I'm sorry.
Say February 6th.
January 19th, or
22nd,
22nd.
they'll be
January
available.
22nd,
the drawings will be available.
right, to bidders.
Yep.
On what day?
January 22nd.
And when are bids coming in?
February 12th for filed subbids, February 26th for general bids.
Yeah, ours is just a little bit off of theirs, but it's the same period of
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Okay, and then
So you get your
File
bids by,
sub-bid.
you'll get bids by the end of,
by the end of February?
And
Yep.
if,
beginning of March.
By the
and then
26th,
get the
yeah.
ground running.
Okay. Now, do we have to go in front of the MSBA anymore?
Nope,
Or
we're all done.
we're done, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is, one of their
Well,
questions,
for
Keep
the-
them
Chuck
informed.
does.
Well, I know, right,
Keep them
right.
informed.
No, but I know, but just to
Every 2
present and
months?
stuff like that,
Yeah,
which is just so different from doing.
never know who's watching.
meeting and move forward. Yeah, I'm the only one that gets that pleasure, but that's fine. No,
okay.
they've been very, very good. They've been up here. They were up here last week for their regular bi-monthly visit on the other project, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But we discussed this project at great lengths, and they had a few concerns of the drawings, and I reviewed them, and one of the ones they had is, you guys are behind, you gotta get the pre-qualifications. You might remember we pre-qualified. This falls way under the state threshold for pre-qualification, so we do not have to go through that process, which streamlines the bidding process.
So we do want to
Then-
drum up business of
We are.
getting good
Talk it
contractors.
up,
Yep.
and that's why we're out there making the
That's the
phone
biggest
calls.
variable in this process, is who the contractor's gonna be.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay, great.
Got it?
That's it. Carl, Courtney, do you guys have anything else to
Um,
add?
We did make this 60% submission to
Yep.
the MSBA. We have a copy. Carol, you keep them for the town.
Doesn't Mike keep one? Doesn't Mike have one in the office?
Well, we keep them in the same one.
Okay,
We also have one in the trailer at the 10%.
And as Chuck says, we're expecting comments back, like typical
Should
submission.
get it today.
The comments now are more of technical nature. They review our plans and specs and give us some feedback, and we respond and incorporate their comments into the next submission 90%.
Yep. which is like next month, right? December?
Beginning of January, correct. We're finishing drawings, but then we have to get cost estimates, so I think we make the 90% submission at the beginning of January.
Right.
And our comments from the review sets that we've talked about all along, they're included in that set as well, so.
Okay, great.
We'll make sure they pick them up in the next one and move forward from there.
Okay, all right. Anybody have anything else? All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting for the middle high school.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, you guys all ready just to move on? Can we just pass this to Chuck, please? No, this-
Start right up again?
We'll go see Mary again tomorrow.
All right, now we will open the school building committee meeting for November 18th, 2014 for the Pembroke School. Okay. First is, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 14th, 2014 for the Pembroke School.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Those are approved. All right, next are our monthly invoices for Pembroke. All right, so our monthly invoices for the Pembroke project are $2,877,561.44. You guys should have.
I saw those ones. I
Okay,
saw those.
okay. So we've got invoices for municipal DRA, Green Seal, UTS, freight, and then there are 2 PSSs included in this.
These are
Chuck, can you-
PSSs
yeah.
you previously approved.
Right,
But
so-
PSSs are professional service
Yep.
supplements. They're traditionally, always are, in the project, there's been, well, 16, we're up to 16 of them, are when you're asking DDRA to have the consultants do additional work or things have changed and you need to get them done. These, specifically, these two address the changes that were made by this, in the septic system and the routing of the septic line to it because of the unsuitable soils we discovered and a number of other things. So when they put these PSSs here as invoices, they're invoicing against the PSSs you previously approved. So you're not approving any PSSs tonight for this. You're actually billing against what you previously. That's why they're included here.
Right, so we've already approved them, right? And they, like you said, they were both for the septic system work.
Correct. One was for the
extra.
septic, piping, reroute instead of
Yeah.
going the mile route, the route around the front of the building
The
and all the way
excavation.
through the bus travel, went through the back of the building.
Yeah.
Once we get the conservation agent to agree that we weren't encroaching on the setbacks, and then the other was all that work that required the big change for the unsuitable soils.
Right, okay. All right, so I would like to entertain a motion to approve our monthly invoices for $2,877,561.44 for the Pembroke project.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? These are approved.
Are we getting turf on the, not turf, but seeding done? Or not yet?
Find out tomorrow. It's
Yeah.
a little late, it's really late.
Yeah.
Put any grass seed down.
Yeah.
Well, what we
Cold.
20 degrees.
Yeah.
What we talked to the contractor a
We're
lot
hoping we
about
might
is,
make the cut.
we do a long-range plan to see what the weather might be, and if it makes sense to have the contractor spray winter ryegrass on it,
Yeah.
just to grow some ground cover.
Yeah.
But you offset that against, then they come back in the spring and have to tear it all off and regrade the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk a lot about that tomorrow at our meeting, our weekly meeting. So, there is a stockpile area close to the school that will probably get covered with some sort of a plastic.
Yeah.
We have it on site, it's whether or not they use it or not, we have to get it on there to cover up. We'll talk about all of that on covering and capping and what's left when we get to the item on here on the Green Seal air monitoring, we get that towards the end, so.
Okay.
That's all good.
Okay. All right, Chuck, you want to
Progress.
give us, yep,
Since you walked it last, it's miles further. It's, they're doing a pretty good job. And as a matter of fact, they're doing a great job on progress. We're gonna hit, we always caution, and Carl and Courtney can back you up on this one, back me up on this one, we get into construction. You get to the point where all of a sudden it looks like it's not moving as fast as it was. Well, it's because now you're all inside and you don't see it. And then the work that's left to do is the tedious, takes some time to get it done, the finish work. Setting all the lockers, making sure the lockers all work. I mean, you have to literally go down and have to shake and check every locker to make sure it all works. All the trim work, all the mill work has to go in, all of that. So there's a great deal of work. We're still running about 85 to 95 people on an average day, which is still a lot of people. There's an average of about 35 electricians every single day. They're doing everything from wiring pumps for the septic system, the condensate, the rainwater system, the gray water, as well as we have the final power into the building now. It's not the final transformer, because that's on order, but your electric company was good enough to find a temporary transformer that we could use. So they've installed it, and they've made the power live to the building, so they're running on permanent power up there. The contractor's still paying for the power. They pay for it until we take the building. Contractor's also paying for gas, because the gas is all that we brought up to the building, and they're using the gas. They're starting to use the gas to start up things that are gas-fired. So utilities are all in. The school department and your new IT director has been exceptional. I mean, I say that in all sincerity. So much so that he even has the Verizon contract. If it's not in now, it's due in this week. That's months ahead of when we need it, and that's fantastic. Because we usually wait for them. We usually, on every job, we wait for Verizon for months. So getting them now in before we need them is even fantastic, because it helps us. You need it for the fire alarm system to test it. You need it for the elevator to test that. You need it for the security system to test all that. We'll have that. The fiber will be run to the building. They'll have the internet connection into the building before you're ready for it as a school, which allows the people that program the HVAC units to be able to program this remotely from their offices and be able to control it remotely. So it's all very good news when it comes to stuff like that. Third floor classrooms, they're locking doors now as they finish them. I mean, they're done. The flooring is in, the leaf patterns. There was some pictures sent around, I'm not sure. There's leaf patterns are in on the floors as you go into the classroom, and the
Wow.
flooring, it's done.
Thank you for sharing those pictures.
Those are
They're
great. The millwork ones,
to look
we
at.
literally take about 100 pictures a month, I mean, a week, if not a day.
I was gonna say a day.
It's just
Where'd they come
it's
from?
amazing how many pictures we
It's
have. I
great.
filled up 3 portable hard drives already, which is great.
It's a lot
Well,
of photos.
it's good because for a lot of reasons, it's good to have the archive, so we have them. So like I said, they're finishing, the ceilings are in, the lights are in, everything's finished upstairs, the toilet fixtures are in, they literally have boxes on them saying, please do not use. The water is in but not turned on. They're actually scheduled to start firing up the heating units in the next few weeks. The commissioning agent that's supplied by the MSBA is on call, ready to come in and be ready there for the startup. The factory comes and starts them up, which is good, because then we'll start to run warm water, hot water around through the heating units into that 3-story building and around. So the 3-story building's in great shape. The elevator contractor finally showed up, but he's right on schedule. I don't say finally, like we've been waiting for him. He's doing his work. He's, for those of you that are into it, there's a set of rails that go up on the inside of the elevator shaft, and the platform rides on the rails in the car, the cab. The rails are in, the floor of the elevator is in, and they're starting to control it with temporary power now. Just start to level it and re-engineer everything, make sure it all works. Finish work is well underway. Like I said, painting is done pretty much anywhere that it's ready to be done. The gym even has the basketball goals and
Next, you mean?
Wow.
nets, everything is up.
They're gonna have a lot of touch-up painting.
They are gonna
They
have some
have a
touch-up. The wood flooring has not gone in yet. It's been here, it's in the space, it's in the gym. It's not gone in yet because of the weather, but they're waiting also to move all of the subcontractors out of the gym, and they've been using it for storage. So they're trying to push them all out. They've now pushed everybody into the cafeteria, which means they're tripping all over each other. That's fine. You want to run a project like that, that's how they want to run it. And so he wants to get the floor in. So we're not pushing him, he's pushing himself, which is great news. So the technical answer, the exact answer is, are they on schedule? Oh yes, they're on schedule. The schedule says that they will be done and turn the building over to us in late June. If you look at the progress of the project, you look at the progress as it sits, are they ahead of schedule? Yes, they're ahead of schedule. How far ahead of schedule? That's the question. We never guess how far really, because it doesn't matter at this point, because we're still not taking the building and moving the kids over until September anyhow. So school lets out. The building will be more than ready for when we handle the move from the existing Pembroke. We can move it. On most projects, we usually have to move it out of the building we're gonna tear down into storage containers and then move it into the building when we're waiting for it. We'll be able to drive it right across the parking lot and put it right in the classrooms, which is gonna be
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
It's gonna save you money.
Does the warranty start on the equipment, when they turn the building over to us, or when they do the startups now?
Carl has the
When the
perfect
building
answer for
is
this one.
substantially complete, George. So if they start up early just to provide, heat, say, that doesn't count against the warranty. The warranty doesn't start until the building is substantially complete and accepted.
So
But
he
that's,
may
at
start them
that
up
point,
now.
it's ours, right? When it's substantially
Yeah.
complete,
Yeah.
then
Correct.
then it turns over and it's the town's, so it's one and the same. When it turns
Yeah.
over to
When
us,
the war-
It's
so the
yours
warranty
in the
Still
sense that there are
punch
certain things you have to pick up as
Right.
a town, as
Right.
an owner, right? But it's still a job site where they're still finishing some work
right,
and
right,
things.
but we have to start paying some of the bills.
Utilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
But
talking
if you're
about
not using the
breakdown.
building for the full use, you can turn everything off.
You can
So
set,
you're not gonna hit these huge bills as if you're running a building, because you can turn it off. If they're done and they're working on punch list, we'll just shut everything down.
the good thing is you're gonna be going from
Keep
like
the
the
heat
spring
on
and
the
it's gonna
monitor.
continue to get warmer, so
That's
you're
right.
not worried
So we don't
about
have to worry
That's
about
the only
heat,
worry,
things
depends on
freezing
when they
and stuff.
finish and how
It
much
won't be
heating.
until the spring anyhow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The earliest, I think between the three of us, we've talked about it, and Pat as well, I think the earliest you're talking is substantial completion is sometime beginning of the spring, it'd be the absolute earliest. There's a lot of commissioning work that'd be done by the commissioning agent. There's a lot of startup work. There's gonna be some heated discussions about that tomorrow as well, there always are. They wanna do it faster, we wanna do it later, it's it's a game we play at the end of every project. The good thing is, though, we have a cushion built into this, which is unbelievable. To be able to have this much time to be able to shake out, I mean, literally open and close the doors 100 times to make sure they all work. I mean, we have the time built in now, naturally built into the schedule to make sure it all works. So it's great news.
And still be ahead. That's great.
So, it's all going really well. The landscaping work, you're sort of you've hit the wall now, you've hit the freeze. But, they have done we're guessing that probably 95% of, we'll talk about this when we talk about the air monitoring as well. 95% of the area around the building that needs to be capped is probably done, which is great. It's all loamed, it's not seeded, obviously. It's all melded into the woods. There's one area around the drive, it goes up the drop off, that's gotta be cut back into the woods a little bit deeper. They have to cut some trees down and cut some things back. Still within our limit of work, they just didn't do it. They didn't bring it back far enough the initial time. They know that, there's been no dispute about it. All the work at Mrs. Johnson's property is done. It's all paved. There are 2 gravel areas that were left. I have to spend some time with Mike tomorrow and probably go visit Mrs. Johnson. I went and visited her last week when she got back from her vacation, make sure that she was okay. She was very happy.
Great, that's
There were
wonderful.
there were some areas that she thought was gonna get paved, and her son thought that maybe it didn't get paved, so we didn't pave it. We can come back and pave it if they need it paved, it's included in the price, it's not an issue, so we can go from there. They both have informed the town, her son and herself, that they do not want the wooden ramps that were designed to go in there, decided they didn't want them. So we're not gonna do them. So that's great news. So, but it really looks good down there. So I was able to drive up it. I walked out with her and we discussed it. And then up that drive is all done. They just have to do the banks as you go up into the woods. They have the swing gate. If it's not up already, they're gonna put it up to block anybody from driving up there because it's awful attractive to look like you don't wanna go up there, but don't do it. Because you're gonna get to the top, you're gonna hit a wall anyhow, so.
Okay.
But it's all paved all the way around. The back playground area is all paved. They won't put down the synthetic surface, the bouncy surface or the playground surface until the spring, because it's too cold now for that. The little shed that's out there is installed. There's been some of the pictures.
Well, what's gonna happen when you finish that and next winter after this?
What's
No,
that?
just
If you're
mean for the
concerned about the
installation.
heat now, I mean, the cold now with this,
it's about the curing
Oh, it's just not
process.
for installing.
You don't
need-
install in this
And
weather.
oh,
Once
it's
it's
just
in,
the
it's
Oh,
installation.
yeah.
Once it's
It'll
in,
take,
it's fine.
it'll take
It'll
winters
take the
forever.
weather?
Oh, yeah. You just don't install it in this cold weather.
It's a
It's
liquid,
yeah.
so, it has.
It pours. It's
like-
really
Yeah.
very unique surface. It's got
And
big
you're not
sprinkler.
concerned about any freezing of water pipes or anything like that?
No, because the heat will be
Winter?
on, it'll just be on very low. It's on now, there's temporary heat in the
Yeah,
building now,
the-
being
the
supplied by the
contractor's
contractor.
obligated by
He's
law
got these
to maintain the
gigantic
temperature in the
heaters.
above 40.
He's not running any of the heat in the building now, he's
He
got
owns
these
the
three
building right now,
massive
so
heaters that are
anything that
blowing
goes-
these gigantic ducts of heat in there. There are some places when you're working around those things, you're down to shirt sleeves. I mean, it's just warm in there. So it's in great shape. So all in all, the
Okay.
progress has been very, very good.
You happy with septic? The septic dig?
It is finally in.
Good.
Septic piping is finally in, they are
That's our
putting
photo
it
on the
back.
front.
I put it there because it's been on everybody's mind, but yes, it's all in.
That's a heck of a septic.
It's the
Yeah, look at
biggest
that,
one
huh?
I've ever seen.
It's huge.
There are some final pipes to connect at one end and some final pumps to put in the septic system. The way the Isteman, working with the Board of Health, is signed off, once they do it's called a squirt test, they actually run water through it so you can see it, make sure it all flows well. Then they cover it up and everything's fine. What they're going to do in order to finish up the project is the existing school pumps into a pump chamber now, pumps into a tank now, and that's pumped out weekly.
Oh, okay.
What the Board of Health has agreed is, once the new septic system has been approved, once she goes through and does her final inspections and she signs off on it, which should be any time, they're actually going to pump from the existing tank up to, they're gonna pump it into a truck, drive it up, pump it into the new tanks, and then that will use the septic system. So, and the reason they're doing that is so that then they can demo the existing tanks that are underneath the parking lot as soon as the school is emptied. So that's the plan if they want to do that, but they own pumping out the existing tank until such time as we accept the system. So it's all working
Good.
the way it's supposed to.
So they couldn't tie the pipes in?
You couldn't get the,
Get the
you just
invert?
could not get the inverts, you could
Really?
not get the slopes right.
Really?
Plus,
That's too bad.
I know, that
it's
would have
designed for
nice
the
and
new
easy for
pumps.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily be designed for existing, pumping
Right.
from the existing, and there,
It's a pressurized system.
so it was worried that the engineering wouldn't work
Yeah,
if you
got
just
it.
tried to
Okay.
splice it in.
Mess it up.
Interesting.
So the thought was it's not the right way to go. Put all this money into a new field, it's nothing, we don't want to add anything to it that might mess it up.
And they
So-
save for not having to transport.
Right,
Right.
right, that's good savings.
So it's all good.
So has Verizon installed all the internet infrastructure? and
Right now, it's just they're running
routers, or-
fiber optic up the driveway into the pipes, the conduits that go underneath from more or less where the trailers are now, close to where the trailers are now. And then the fiber runs underground from there into the building. Again, they were supposed to do that any day now,
Okay,
so that's good news. We'll have the fiber all the way into the building in the next few weeks.
but no routers yet?
No, those won't come until much later, because there's still a lot of dust in the building and things like that.
And
Like
would
you
they
said,
be
routers.
supplied by Verizon, or
No.
would they, no?
No.
Okay.
They're
right.
supplied
Because I
under the
just-
contract.
All right, because I know a parent who's kind of concerned about the level of radio frequency of the router, so we want to make sure that we get like the latest and the greatest, best routers that have very low levels of radio frequency.
Right,
And
and you had brought-
I had asked you about that, and you had done some research in your,
Right, our
Our
technology
technology
consultant's very familiar with the question, and there's a lot of publications that have been out, it's 50-50 of pros and cons with Wi-Fi. And basically said there's no proven evidence that Wi-Fi is causing any issues with health or sending out, waves that are negative, have a negative impact on our health or anything.
right, well, and I have some information here that I found that said a typical microwave will output about 800 W of radio frequency. And a typical router could be like around 10 to 20 of MW. So that's like a milli, it's just a less than
Yeah,
one
milli-
Fraction.
Yeah.
fraction. So compared to a microwave oven, we're talking a very, very small risk. But still, we want to make sure that
Right.
we're keeping our children as safe as we can possibly do, and we have, the safest and most updated types of routers we can find.
Right, and our consultants wouldn't put anything in a school that they knew was harmful to students or staff or anything.
Right, yes, I think this parent just wanted to raise
Right.
the awareness, to make sure that people understand.
We're hoping Billy could hear.
Okay.
As far as the budget, I might reserve that discussion until we talk about the change orders as we get into that, because that'll impact the change orders. Bottom line is, again, you're under budget. things look very good. We've not even had to go near at this point, and don't expect that you'll have to go near your 1.6 odd million of bid savings. Even with
still
everything
have
else
our-
we've hit.
We still have our 300,000
Jeff found a typo.
contingency.
I just found a typo. I was gonna
Jeff
say
found a
anything.
typo. Jeff finds a typo every time we.
Oh, did he find?
Okay, it's under finishes, the last bullet, it says acoustical ceilings installed in all of area C, continued in areas B and C, it should be B and A.
DNA. Always finds a typo.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
That's okay, I don't mind.
Aren't you happy that he reads all this
I'm
stuff?
glad he reads it, are you kidding me? It's great. Hate to think of all the hard work just fills up trash cans.
Right, okay, all right,
Good.
and actually, I had PSS 16 on here, but we had already voted on that, and that was already included. That was the sign off for niche
This is
on all
just a
the
sign off.
extra work.
Right.
Yeah, this is paperwork.
Yeah, we had talked about that before. the
Yep.
Yep.
Added work
Right.
required their presence on the site.
Right, because that was for the extra work at
So
the
Stu, do you
septic.
need to
Do
give
we-
me, do you want me to give these to Janet first before you sign them, and you can sign them all, everything else all at one time?
Yeah, I have to go in tomorrow, sign
Good,
some bands.
'cause I have a-
Do we need to sign those or just Stu?
Just
Okay.
Selectmen.
But I have a big envelope for her, so she'll have
All
it all
right,
with
so
her
be
Stu will
tomorrow.
do that.
Sure she will.
I'll be in there anyway.
She and I are best friends now. I bring her stuff every day.
Let's bring her a coffee.
I know it.
Okay, all right, so do you want to talk about the Northfield schedule?
Yeah, we touched on that. The North Fields all except, let me, if you can imagine, you all drive down there, bring your kids there, you drive around the building, you've seen it. As you drive up the drive, you look up, there's this huge mound, that's all topsoil. That's all been tested and approved and with, well under the limits of any arsenic containing material. I think this is all imported topsoil, that's all brought in there. That's a stockpile of material. That gets all spread out up around the existing school, although most of that, I mean, the new school, although most of that is done. The rest of it gets spread out on top of the north fields. But what exists there now is those fields are already capped, meaning they have the layers of drainage materials that go on the fields that create the shape of the fields. That's all in. There's also, as you might remember, as we discussed the north fields in the remediation, there's what we call a high vis barrier, or high visibility barrier. So if anybody's ever digging, they know they've hit that barrier, that you're now getting into the natural soil. We'll leave it at that. What that means, we've all been down that road. So when you look at the north fields, you can see that the whole thing has been capped with capping material, except for closest to the schools, we've always joked about it, is the ski area or the toboggan hill. That hill is not. That hill is material that's been pulled out of excavations in various parts of the job where it was discussed and approved that it would all go there. We're working with the site contractor, since there isn't enough time now to get any kind of a seed or anything on there to cover that. And they make a product, and it actually is sitting up there in rolls up on the site to put that there until next spring when more material gets put on there. I'm not saying more, meaning like it's gonna grow 10 times higher, but it does grow a little bit higher, as we've all discussed. So other than that area, everything else on the North Fields is capped, which is a milestone and a half. It also gets to a little bit further down on the green cell monitoring.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, if you want to
when
talk
they
about
spread
that while you're
the loam-
talking about this,
I
it makes
will,
sense.
I
so.
think I will. They have informed us last week they will not be spreading that loam until the spring. They're going to leave it piled up there. Because if you put it in now, it starts to erode, you start to get rivulets in it. You're just gonna spend twice as much time in the spring coming back to clean it all up. So all the drainage and everything that's in, and the irrigation lines, everything's the way in it's supposed to be. We're just not gonna put the actual seed growing loam on it at this point, or form the baseball field. We've moved that too much into the winter weather. So that's not gonna happen. So what you see now at the North Fields is probably what you're gonna see all winter. That's probably where it's gonna sit. They'll probably, if they get some warm days, they'll do some more work down there, but they probably won't do much more in there. So I don't want anybody to think that all of a sudden they've walked off, that's it, we're done. No, it's just, you've hit the weather. That's really where the North Field sits. Like I said, the septic field is almost done. They're gonna test it next week as part of the North Fields. If they didn't test it already, the test was scheduled, but then we hit all the rain and everything else, so. And then that's all gonna be covered over with the actual loam that goes there. It's required by the septic field that's already on site. So all the dirt, the loam is all here, everything's on site. There's not a lot of more there's not a lot of more trucking of materials to bring in, which is good. As a matter of fact, in the next, I would dare say, in the next few months, next couple months, you're gonna see stuff hauling out. You're gonna see all the storage boxes that the contractors have all used. They're gonna start hauling those off the site because everything's in the building. There's nothing to store anymore. It's all on its way out. So that seems to be the biggest traffic part. So now on the green seal monitoring, the green seal contract is roughly about done now. There's anywhere between $6,000 to $8,000, depending on the days, of where we have money within the testing budget. We've not exceeded the testing budget. It was increased at the beginning of this process. Their contract they're about to max out on their contract at the end of this week. So we may have to move a few dollars into their contract to close out their contract. Carol and I and Mike Anderson met with the Green Seal people, Jim Luker, who is their regional Tilly. I think you worked with him at one time, or Georgia may know him as well. Has been fantastic. Jim's coming up to spend some time with me tomorrow. They've walked around, and as late as this afternoon, they sent me an email of the areas that are left to be uncapped. Like I said, there's about 95% of the site is capped. The rest of it that's not done is stuff that they indicate that may not require full-time monitoring. It does not require somebody to, there's a small area here that needs to be done. There's an island over here that's not done. There's an island over there that's not done. That perhaps it shouldn't be done. So we sat with Carol and Mike Anderson, like I said, and Jim made his recommendations to Carol, and I'll turn it over to Carol at that point.
So, we're always weighing all the stuff we've learned, right? So we got the naturally occurring, how much dust is really going up versus not everything is completely capped, what's the potential danger? And so in the conversation with Jim, we actually listened to everything, and I said to them, my recommendation is going to be that we wrap this up. That the majority of the things that we would worry about, the volume of dust, the exposure that the kids would be and staff would be exposed to me is insignificant compared to what we were dealing with when there was all the construction going on. So I knew the budget was starting to, to dissipate as well, and actually I asked Jim, thinking about this, if we looked at the 21st being the end of this, given what we knew the contractor was going to be working on and getting in place, does that work? Is that fair? And he said, yes, I think that's fair. So we came up with the 21st kind of collaboratively. I probably could have argued for a week before, but we knew we had this meeting coming up.
Yep.
So I wanted, obviously it's not my call, I wanted, the input of the group. And so we were debating, what if just till the end of the week, basically. So, we figured the 21st was reasonable. Jim was in agreement with that. He's been a good partner for us on this project. So, that's my recommendation, and I bring it forward, with the, the support of all the people that we talked to in meetings.
Okay, thank you.
The next point is for the phase 2 work, and the phase 2 work is, we don't have them, you don't have them under contract to do the phase 2 monitoring, if you so choose to. And phase 2 is literally the knocking down of the existing Pembroke, which they don't have to monitor that, because knocking down a building does not stir up arsenic-containing soil, if it's done correctly. And we have no thoughts that it won't be done correctly. It's then when you start to regrade and create the field that's left behind and the parking areas that's around it, that you don't have anybody under contract to do the monitoring. It is up to you at this point, based on what Carol just said in her meetings with DEP and all that. If you choose to go forward, you don't have to decide that now. We're getting prices from them. They also have indicated to us that they don't believe it needs to, if they do it, that it needs to be a full-time monitoring thing. It can be anywhere from a 2 to a 3 day person using 1 or 2 monitors, probably just 1. The monitors are what cost you. It's the labor, the person who's there all the time, the 8 hours a day, and it's the rental of that very sophisticated piece of technology. So they're giving us a quote. We'll pass that on through Carol and to you all, and at some meeting after the first of the year. We'll talk about it as we start looking at the schedule for June and July, when we start knocking down the building. You wouldn't need them or need a monitor if you choose to go that way. You probably wouldn't need them until sometime late in August and September of next year. Because there's so much work that has to be done just to get it ready to do this work, so.
And the kids would, there'd be nobody at the school in the summer.
Right.
There were not, you know, that-
So are you potentially saying that they could actually demolish Pembroke in the summer?
They're planning to.
that's.
Oh, there.
that's the-
I
Yeah,
thought it
it's
was-
set for
As
what?
soon as we
June
move,
30th.
soon as we move them
Or
out.
June 30th?
As
That's
soon
what
as
it's
the
set for
kids
on
are
the
out of
schedule.
school.
Once the kids are out of school. yeah,
So the
they're
schools-
doing
They
kids-
have
kids
some
are out of
abatement
school.
to do.
Basically.
I'm moving, we're setting up the move, we're working with Carol and the staff.
So
and
you actually are
Margaret.
setting up the move that quickly, huh, from when the kids are out of school?
The day after you
You guys
leave
better
the
know
building.
for our new snow days.
Got some time built in there, which brings up another question, there's some other
There's not
business.
much, I don't know what our last day of school is, but you guys are,
Well,
that's
I was,
close.
Trust me, the day you tell us you're done, we're gonna move the boxes out.
Yeah.
They're gonna move across the building.
And there could be some moving beforehand.
There
So
could be
it's not
some
that
time.
Everything has to be moved. We just have to do it in such a way that when the furniture comes in and gets assembled, that we're not loading the rooms up with boxes and then
Okay.
not being
We're gonna
able
wait
to
till the
relocate
furniture's
the
in.
furniture where we need to have it.
We'll
Are
be
teachers
getting the
gonna have to
furniture.
like pack up their own stuff, or are
Yes.
we gonna have
Nope.
there?
They
But
are.
we're working on what the alternatives are, there's anywhere from a complete moving company does the whole thing
Yep.
to, we do some kind of hybrid, or our guys move it completely, and Mike actually, talked to a couple of people the other day, and wrote me up some notes about what he found out, so we're in the process of trying to obviously work within the budget.
Yep.
But we wanna do it right, we wanna do it right.
Okay.
I spend probably as much of my time in building a building as I do organizing and orchestrating the entire move. It's just, it takes a little bit of care, it takes a little bit of planning to make sure that,
A little
one,
Yeah, I'd say colossal.
so that you're not moving all, and
Takes a little bit
as
of
we
planning,
met
but my
with,
3 kids
we
are
met
out.
with every staff member in the building came in when we're sitting with the FF&E, and I was talking to each one of them as we're going through. And I said to a number of the teachers, and I said, and a number of the group leaders for each of the group grades, is we're gonna make this, we're gonna provide, as Carol said, we're looking at some options. We're gonna provide them throwaway boxes, cardboard boxes, or there are crates. The last school I did, very similar to this one, we moved 420 kids from one school across the parking lot to the new school. We provided rental crates, labeled. This goes from this room here to that room there. Teachers load their crates, they get as many crates as they need, you rent the crates the length of time you need them, and you move them over and you drop them in their room, they come over and they unpack them.
We do this all the time with
Yeah.
with our clients and
Exactly.
ourselves too, so it's a great way to do it.
And then there are some strategies, as Carol and I were talking about, and Mike's, I know, talked to a few people too. On this other school we did, we actually used the visitors or the guests of the Essex County Lockup, who come over, no parents, nobody's on site, no students, it's the summer, and they haul the stuff in. You have to pay them lunch, that's all you have to pay them.
We actually,
We're
the
gonna have them
town
busy.
already uses
Yes,
a
they do.
We
program
use them all the
similar
time.
to that
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, we do, yeah,
Park
we
and
use it
Rec
at
uses
Camp
it.
Dennis.
Exactly.
We use it all
Use
over
it all the
place,
time.
so.
It's a very cost
We use it
effective
several
way.
times in the schools as well.
And it's fantastic.
There's
They work
also
hard.
systems you can use for color coding,
Yeah.
little stickers,
Correct.
so that you know what floor it goes on and so on and so
Which
forth. so.
we've done that as well. So we'll work with Carol and her staff and Mike and the whole bit to make sure this is the best way, the most cost effective and best way to do it. We've done it, I've done it 100 times. I mean, it's just, you get the pattern down and then you go. And then,
Wow.
and then the last
The
thing
other
is,
important message that Chuck has been getting across is that we're providing virtually all new everything. So we want to make sure teachers aren't, moving extra stuff.
Right.
none of the
To
Are
bookcases.
you,
people
are you guys, what
They
are you
don't-
doing with the furniture and stuff? Are you
Are we making a
Donating
bonfire?
it
Providing them
somewhere?
dumpsters.
We're discussing that.
They're actually,
Okay.
one of the staff
Discarding
did
that?
come to me.
Discussing.
One of the staff did come aside to me and said that there is she's interested in this program that she read about, that I just read about 2 weeks ago, that this furniture can be donated to schools that do not have it.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
actually works out very well. If we can find a way to do that cost effectively, then we should consider doing that. We'll bring that
Can
forward. to you
Georgetown
as
use
we-
it as a tax write-off if they donate it?
There are certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. I'll have to talk to Mike about the
They don't pay
specifics
taxes.
on
You
it.
don't pay taxes,
Right.
Tax rate.
so So there's no write-off.
There's certain things you do, certain credits and things you can do.
Good idea.
And then
I
the
don't know
last,
who'd want those yellow
I like
chairs.
the way you
though.
think.
and I say
We'll
this,
surplus some of it, I'm sure there are townspeople who would love mementos.
you have to be
Yeah.
careful with that,
You
but
know?
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. You gotta-
That.
Before that building comes down and everything like that, you know, you gotta let the kids in and go spray paint the walls and stuff or something.
Well, it's funny you should bring
Right
that
on the
up.
wall.
Feels we shouldn't
We've
defame
seen-
her.
It's funny you should bring
Die
that
with dignity.
because we were approached
It's a
by.
fun thing.
building.
It's a fun thing. You gotta think of the kids.
The kids love it.
Gotta think of the
Please
kids.
don't charge them to do it.
I-
I have such a
That's
hard
not
time
up to me,
charging
but
Yeah,
people
yeah,
in
that doesn't
town
sound
to
like a good
destroy
idea.
a building.
I think they'll do
go,
it for
go
free.
sign their,
like
guys,
to-
go sign their
I
names
would
in the
like
building or
to-
something. They
I would
can all write
actually
their,
like to go backwards
you know,
a
write
little
all your
bit.
names in the building or something.
I'd like to go backwards a little bit, because you brought up the whole issue on ending the testing this Friday, and we haven't had a vote on it.
Correct.
So I would actually like to make the motion that we actually approve that, so that the testing is ended on the 21st of this month. And as a little sidebar, once we get more information for the next phase and more information, then we can make up our minds on that.
Correct.
But I think this one is, we should at least vote on and go, so. So that's my motion.
Second.
All right, is there any more discussion on Green Seal,
Thank you for
ending it?
bringing that up.
No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Good job, Carol.
The last piece
Thank you,
is
Carol.
on,
And they're
Thanks for
Um,
bringing us back on track, Jeff.
regardless of what you do, whether you let people in to spray paint the building, and I can tell you, I've built, Carl and I can count the number of schools we've probably done independently and a couple, few together. I've never seen that done, but you can do whatever you want.
Georgetown is a place of
I
firsts.
understand.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that we do see quite a bit, and I was actually approached on this last week, 2 weeks ago, we do see buildings that are about to come down be used as training for emergency responders, or for first responders. They like to be able to get to an empty building like this and say, God forbid, what if we had an issue? How would we treat it? Fire departments like to say, how would I fight this fire? They don't destroy the building, they don't spray water, they don't do any of that, but how would I rescue somebody, how would I do all this? The chief actually approached me 2 weeks ago and asked me about it. When we tore down Maynard High School, we were approached by the Massachusetts State Police SWAT team, Husky Rescue,
Just gonna recommend that.
where they actually brought forward to us and asked a number of the construction guys who were still on the job if they would like to be victims. Would like to participate in an active shooter drill. God forbid, right?
Yeah.
Well, we did it. We did it at Maynard High. It was one of the most extraordinary days I've been part of. It's moving. It's very difficult sometimes to watch because you realize these things do happen. It was fantastic. They got the state police just raved how they never quite get an opportunity to do this. Well, they did it. It worked out great. I'm not suggesting you do that here. We've not been approached, but the fire department has asked, could they get a couple of days? He'd like a few weeks. I told him that wasn't possible. A couple of days to get in there to do that, to fill the building with smoke. They have smoke machines they use for training. They fill the building with smoke, don their equipment, and go in, and how would they kick in doors? How would they train? How would they bring somebody out? And I said I would bring that forward. Mike Farrell and I talked a little bit about today. It not only has to be brought to the school committee, it has to be brought, and Carol's invited him down, the school committee as far as the building committee. I also think I advise the chief, but I probably advise a vote of Board of Selectmen to allow it to happen, because it is a town building. If the contractor allows it, I think it's a good idea. I personally do. The contractor should allow it, because we'll be moved out and all the stuff will be gone. And then there'll be a window before he'll start the asbestos abatement. Once he starts the hazardous material abatements, the whole building will be wrapped. You won't be able to get in there. You won't be able to even get inside the building. The window is very short. From the time you move out to the time he wraps the building, it's a very short period of time. We don't want to have a lot of fluff. It's not
Right.
weeks, it's days.
Yeah.
So I mentioned to him that the best we could probably do without talking to the contractor is that first weekend, that he could get in over that weekend. It's either that or then it's postponed until around July 4th, and obviously the volunteer fire department and paid volunteer. You don't want to bring people through on a holiday weekend.
Right.
So he and I are going to work out those dates if it's acceptable by everybody in the town, but it's something we've seen it done a great deal, and I think it's a good idea. it gives you an
I think it's a
opportunity
good
you would
idea.
I
never
think
have.
it's a,
Yep.
I think it's a good idea. I think that, you know, with all of this terrible news that we all hear with schools being, you know, attacked in certain ways,
Yeah, I think an active
That-
shooter
that-
drill would be great. If
that I think that they
state
should
police want it.
consider,
Yeah.
maybe talk to them, consider about doing something like that. And even if it's at the state level, you know, again, we only have one weekend, but I think that would probably be something that would be extremely significant, not only for Georgetown, but for the whole state.
I think it's important.
So, so I think it's a great thing. I've seen some of these too. One of them at a building that I was doing. It is unbelievable.
It's hard to watch
And the
sometimes.
stuff that the police say that they learn
Yes.
is just immeasurable. So I
Good.
think that we should.
We'll
Yeah, I
bring those
think it's
forward as they
fantastic.
come up, and we'll keep talking to the chiefs about it. I have not talked to the police chief about it too, but I'm sure he'll get a mention of it. We'll talk to him about it as well, and we'll decide, we'll bring some proposals to you, forward to you, what we think you've got time to do. Again, this, a lot of it is, once we move out and we turn it over to the contractor, it becomes the contractor's building, so that's why our window is short. And we don't wanna delay him, we want him to start right away.
So Chuck, I was gonna, have Al come to the school committee meeting at the end, the second one in December, which is December 18th.
Perfect.
Is that timing okay?
Oh, you could even do it even later, cause we're not even gonna start tearing the building down until June or July.
Okay.
So you have,
Well,
you have until the
I'm
end of the school
happy to
year.
do whenever, but would there be
Well,
enough
sooner the better, I would
information for the
say.
school committee to know in December? Because I'd rather just get it done and
Sure.
then the board
Yeah,
of
just-
selectmen can look at it at the same time.
It gives
Right.
the responders more time to prepare also.
Yeah, let
It's
them
not an
prepare.
easy thing to prepare.
No, it isn't. There's a whole lot of things he has to do.
Right.
Could it possibly depend on the number of snow days we have? What if we have all 5 snow
Well,
days?
I don't think you have to pick the exact date. I think it's just getting, you know, just
Okay.
saying,
Just
can-
telling us it,
you know,
it's
and
okay.
that they're
I'll
gonna,
work
they're
on it.
gonna have,
Let them
right,
worry
they're gonna
about
have
it.
2 days
We would
or
like
3,
to-
how many ever days, you know?
Okay.
We'll
So
work
I
out
think,
the details,
I
the
don't know how
specifics.
that
We
will
just think it's a good
interfere
idea.
with the defaming of the building.
Maybe we
Because
won't.
of the timing, and maybe
I
that's
think
the
this
way-
is a better use.
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Agreed.
I think we can do both.
Okay.
All right, so honestly, if you can just keep us
We're working on it.
abreast of what's going on with that, honestly, I don't think this committee needs to vote on that because we don't own the building. It's not our building.
department's
So I think between the school
what
and the
Mike
selectmen,
discussed too.
yep,
Yep.
I think that's fine. But if you can just let us know, keep us posted on what's gonna happen, just so we know. But I don't think we need to take a formal vote on that.
Well, I've had all the fun talking tonight and all the good news. Now we'll turn it over to Carl and Courtney, talk
Yeah,
about
you
some change
can.
orders.
All right, so, yeah, I think, so that's really all we have left, right?
Yeah, change orders.
Change orders, and then
overall
you gotta
budget
just
review.
do a touch base on the budget, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you beat his good news?
I passed,
Sure, we're under budget.
actually, Carl, I passed around, they all have a copy of change orders 10 and 11.
Budget falls under
Budget's
Chuck.
good. They were subcommittee.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take it off to them. There was an email
Right.
passed around to a number of the subcommittee members on the change orders. We emailed it around. I got responses back from everybody. I appreciate it very much. Those were the time-sensitive issues. We had to get the contractor moving. Everybody responded within a
Right.
couple hours. Again, I appreciate that a great deal. It allows us to get the contractor to keep on moving. The change orders you have in front of you include more items than what you saw in those emails to those subcommittee members, and we'll go through the line items with you.
Right, I think many of these, like we said, have been discussed as individual, PCOs, when they're proposed as change orders, and when they showed up on the monthly reports as possible items out there, so. And as Chuck says, the subcommittee has approved many of these already because they were time sensitive and we wanted to give the contractor a heads up. And he knows, technically it's not official until the change order is signed, but the working relationship has been successful to date. Understanding that when an individual PCO has been approved, so.
Yep.
So start with number 10, which has, about 10 items on it or so.
Yep.
I think we've talked about the roofing insulation and sloped roofs. There is added value here because we're adding insulation. It's basically to make the sloped roofs, the metal roofs, be all the same level because there was a thicker dimension at one detail than elsewhere in the middle. So we added insulation at the middle so it's uniform across it. So that's that one. 2-inch water line is the one, there was discussion, 6 months or so ago about the student gardens behind the school and whether it should be fed with water or with domestic water or rainwater. And the plans had on it a connection for a water line, but we also had the rainwater capture too, feeding that cistern and pump out there. And so, but the way it was shown on one of the plans, the civil plan, I think, not the plumbing plan, it actually had the 2-inch water line connected to the cistern. So we had to have them disconnect that and connect the rainwater in lieu of that. So that's why there was an added charge there. So it's doing what you wanted. It still has the flexibility in the future to provide domestic water out to that location.
Right, so there's a 2-inch water line that's stubbed up into the boiler room, and then it's not connected.
Right, it's not connected now, so.
But it runs under the porous pavement all the way to the student garden. So if you ever did want to connect it on each side, you don't have to tear up the porous pavement, which is fairly expensive.
Yep.
The canopy light fixtures we talked about, I think before, it has to do with the depth of the ceiling space on the outside porches, that the specified light fixtures didn't fit in there. We had to go to a different light fixture. It's actually a slightly better light fixture. It's an LED fixture, which will save you energy in the long run. So there is value there too to that change. PCO 39 is a very small one. Toilet entry tile just had to do with alignment of heights. The height in the toilet room was one height. The height out in the corridor was a different, and where they came together just had to be adjusted slightly on all 3 floors. Sealant at windows. This has to do with kind of the energy code nowadays, but air and vapor barrier in the building, achieving a continuous line, and in some cases a double line of defense against air and water infiltration into the building. The way our windows were detailed is slightly unique in this building as opposed to some other buildings. The backup wall here is an insulated metal panel. It's not metal studs with sheathing and an applied air and vapor barrier. So there was a gap basically between the metal panels and the windows that normally is covered by a separate contractor who applies the connection there and the sealant to make the continuous sealant. Here we had a metal panel which has its own internal air and vapor barrier, but there was no material to close the gap at the windows.
So that's for the cavity.
Yeah, inside the cavity. So we had to go
Make it
around and
continuous.
literally caulk every window on the perimeter to make sure that's sealed. And this is inside the wall, not on the outside. We already own that sealant on the outside. The septic field, you know all about that. That's the negotiated final number.
The one thing that should be mentioned on that number, 273, 277,
during
that number includes your previously approved, you approved a CCD, Construction Change
Right.
Directive. Last month, we talked about of the $160,000, I think it was. This is the difference between, this is the final number after going all the way through it.
Right.
It also includes, through negotiations in Carl's office, it was a long morning, but it was very productive. We also got them, they did not charge us for the rerouting of the
pipe.
septic line, the piping all the way around, so that's a zero change, which is a very good change.
And
So
you know,
bottom
the
net is-
pumping of the existing system into the new, they're including all that.
Right.
They started out at, what,
380 something thousand
360 or something,
Yeah,
so.
and this is final at 273, so.
Mhm. Then number 47 came about. It's really a swap between your furniture budget and the construction budget. In the meetings with our furniture consultant and the teachers and staff, it was decided we ought to add some built-in casework that matches the kind of casework that's already on the job, as opposed to buying it as a bookcase and as furniture item. So that's what that item is. It's really, as I say, a swap.
Between the two budgets.
The concrete curb at the porous pavement, this is an omission in the drawings to provide a transition between that rubberized surface that we were talking about that happens at the play area that's sort of spongy, and the porous pavement that's next to it. On the plans, they were just butting each other, and they really need a divider to stiffen, both of them, because the underlayment under that pavement is not like typical pavement. It has a lot of stone, it has a lot of drainage layer, and gravel under there, and that edge would get raveled and affect the very expensive rubberized surface in the long run, which you don't wanna have happen. So we needed, and it's a pretty long extent. If you go back there, it looks good too. It's a nice sort of boundary. There's a concrete curb, all along there that needed
Forest
to get
pavement
added.
being a little bit more open, chips.
Right.
Right,
Basically what
and
it
there's
It-
a
it-
gravel base under it too.
Over time, the
Oh, for
edge could
movement?
could
Oh, I see.
ravel.
Well, there was more
Yeah.
concern too, that if you even look from below the surfaces, when you've got the water coming through the porous pavement, it could undermine underneath the synthetic pavement, and there was
So how deep
concern
did the
that you would
curbs
get.
have to go?
They were like
Yeah,
18-inch
18.
curbs.
full-
They were-
oh,
They
Yeah,
were-
they're
they
full
were regular
curbs.
curbs.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Floor drains, that's back in the back of house, where the kitchen meets the receiving area. There's an area there for recycling and for washing out trash cans. We wanted to add floor drains and make sure they're connected. We had the floor drains shown, I think it was on the architectural drawings, but not on the plumbing drawings, so we needed to add that connection there, make it a functional area. Additional marker boards, that actually, again, is somewhat of a swap, because they're basically replacing in a few places where we had smart boards, right?
Grades 3 to 6. yeah.
Right, the feeling there was to go with smart projectors as opposed to smart boards, so you just use an ordinary whiteboard and a different kind of projector. So again, it's sort of a swap, not really an
Swap
add.
with FF&E, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
technology budget, right.
Yeah, there's gonna be a savings there.
So that's all, change order 10, I don't know if you want to handle that separately or move on to number 11.
Keep going.
Change order 11, the first one, PCO 37, added doors for emergency lockdown. We had talked about this long ago at a couple of our security meetings during the design phase, that we would include certain pairs of doors that could be centrally, from a central position, remotely locked. But on the plans, we missed a couple doors that were originally intended, so we had to get both the hardware and the power to those
I
locations.
think this one's just the electrical, we had the hardware.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
we had already done the hardware, this
Yeah.
is the power
Infrastructure
to it.
So that's a pretty good price.
Yeah, it's like, that's looking pretty cheap.
At the media center, number 42A, additional blocking, which one was that, Courtney?
Oh, that was, there was a condition where there's water spilling over.
Oh, the
Yeah.
media center roof,
Yeah.
that's right, we
Yes.
talked about this. And the sloped roof
Oh,
above
yeah,
the
that's right.
library,
I remember that.
the water was coming down, but somehow because of the wind currents, it was spilling
Water was
over the
spilling
edge as
back in.
opposed to going down and into the drain. So we needed to raise that edge with additional blocking along there. And then fire protection inside the freezer and cooler.
Awesome.
This is always kind of a funny thing as to a lot of projects, a lot of fire departments don't want sprinklers. These are the sprinkler heads in case there's a fire inside the walk-in freezers and coolers. Some towns want it, some towns don't. We didn't have it, we need to add it here. It's a dry head, it doesn't have water in it,
Right,
but
it's
it still,
special. It's a
it
special
still
But
works.
it does not freeze in the freezer.
It still
Yeah.
works if a fire goes off in the adjacent kitchen.
It gets recharged.
I bet you should burn your frozen toast.
PCO 53, there's a little bit of good news. 53 is a credit. Thanks to the football field project at the high school, they stripped the loan. In their project, they had, in their specifications, they had specifically directed the contractor to stockpile it and deliver it to a site within 5 miles or something like that.
Correct.
So that's what you owned in the high school
Okay.
contract. We were able to use that loan here at Pembroke, and since, you know, our specs were already written, we couldn't have anticipated this, so it's a credit actually, that the contractor doesn't have to buy the
$12,000 worth of
loan
loan.
from off-site, he had it
That's
donated,
great.
in essence,
$12,000.
and it's
That
worth
includes
12
the
grand.
cost and the transportation.
It's everything.
Right, it brought it to the site,
Super.
And the town, Peter actually supplied a screener, because it didn't come from the high school screened. So Peter moved his screener up the job, let the contractor use it, he screened it all on site, then Peter took the screener away, so it was a great savings to
Wow.
Pay for our Corian countertops.
yes. Number
That's how we
62,
look
these
at
are
it.
these are counters in the boys and girls rooms on the 3-story building and the typical toilet rooms there. Our detail had a typical kind of sort of plywood laminate countertop that we use in the classroom sinks.
Yeah.
We use the same detail mistakenly there. What we really want are corian with uniform
Integral.
bowls.
Yeah.
Much easier to clean up, much more
The
durable.
integral bowls?
Integral bowls.
They're under,
Right.
they're undermount.
That's why
Porcelain
it's so
is it a
expensive.
Porcelain undermount? Or
It's
is it-
all Corian undermount.
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
so
corian, but it's,
okay.
yeah. And so that's why it's so expensive, and there's pairs of them on all three floors. So it's really, 12 sinks,
That's really
12
the way to go.
countertops.
Right.
It is.
And it seems more
So-
together.
Low maintenance.
Yeah, super durable,
Easy.
Yep.
It actually doesn't look
bulletproof,
that
you know,
expensive.
yeah.
When you consider how many there
There's
are
quite a bit of them.
and the labor, it's not that bad.
And the other
Yeah.
thing too, with the detail with the corian, they're just sort of cantilevered off the wall, so it's open underneath. The other detail had wood coming down to the floor, which you don't want in a toilet room, so.
So what does this mean to your budget? If you flip to page 7, it shows where I've included change orders 10 and 11 on your approved change order list, and it's anticipation that you may approve them. We leave you a balance still of contingency of $557, almost $558,000 left in your contingency that we started the job with. There are potential change orders, and some reports, I guess, did not include the potential change order log, and I apologize for that, but in the verbiage on page 3, there are 22 potential change orders that total roughly $217,000. Some of those change orders will not be recognized. These are ballpark numbers. We've thrown some numbers at them, and one of them, Carl and Courtney are gonna discuss next as far as the lead requirements, and there's a change you may not have to do. Even if all of those were approved, worst case, and that's not gonna happen, I'm telling you right now, and I know I'm on camera. Worst case, if those were approved, if those were all approved, it would still leave you a balance of $339,000 in your contingency. And as I wrote in bold at the end there, so based on the amount of the revised contract remaining, so based on the amount of contract left to pay, break, no additional change orders, you would finish the job with still 3.36% contingency. So you're in great shape. We feel very good about it. Even with these changes, you're still right where you need to be. We still think you'll finish this thing with contingency left over and not have to get anywhere near your
Either
underbid.
1.6, yeah.
Won't even have to touch
Right.
it.
That's a good thing.
So,
That's
is
great.
there was way back discussion of a storage shed by the ball fields. Is that a possibility to be utilized with this excess money?
That's up to you.
We'd have to leave that to you.
In
I
the
don't-
contract, there is a slab.
There's a
With
slab that you
electricity.
can
You're
It's
putting
not
a
being
pad,
provided.
electricity, and I think there's water.
Yeah, they're
in it
stubbing
somewhere.
up.
So I think that opens up a bigger question I think you're getting at is, what are the rules for contingency? Okay,
I don't
so-
ever want you to touch it, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. I never want you to touch it. I want to finish this job with more than 1.6, so this guy's very happy. So I don't want you to do anything with it, but
Is the
Well, we're still-
contingency a
you'll never
shared
get
piece?
reimbursed for anything else.
So it's not a shared thing, so anything that we
100%.
spend
It's on
is coming right out of our original budget, but
Correct.
Right, we
it's
still haven't
rather than
gone
giving
over.
it back.
The MSBA reviews
Well,
these
not
change orders quarterly.
Bonding to cover it,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
The MSBA has reviewed all of your change orders quarterly. I have a report sitting on my desk that I have to go through. It's one of the things I want to do tomorrow, is to go through and review it. And what they review it for is the amount of it that they'll reimburse. They have reimbursed you on your change orders since they're so high. Have reimbursed you very, very little. The reason is, it's site work. You're over the 8%, it's the
Right.
arsenic
So they
containing
don't
soil,
care.
it's a septic. So you're very, very, you're, the amount that they're sharing or participating in your change orders are very, very low. I mean, significantly low.
So are there any rules against using it? Because I know that when we're going through this, there's some things that you said, well, you can't even do that if you wanted to, because they won't pay, they won't even let you do it. Like, for instance, way back when there's talk about making the basketball court bigger.
Yes.
You couldn't even do that. It wasn't even on the table to be able to do. So what are the rules with
Well, we could have
contingency for
at
that?
our own dollar.
The
No,
rules,
not,
the rules are less,
that's what I understood.
the
though.
rules are less about what the MSBA will allow you to do. The rules are more what your bond and your approval of the project will allow you to do with the funds that were approved.
Okay.
It's less about, at this point in the game, when you're this far along, it's less and less about what the MSBA says, because they're looking at it and they're gonna say you're 100%. They don't want you to do it either.
Right.
But they also realize, and I won't put words in their mouth, but we say the same thing, this is your money. You voted the money, you can pretty much choose to do what you want.
And what's the
Again,
1.6
I don't want you to
now?
spend any of it.
Because this is at 3 point something. What's the 1.6?
This is
The
300,000.
1.6 is the original amount of money was 25.8, and now it's 1.6 below that.
You're
right?
1.6
We're
below
1.6
your
million.
original thing.
So we're only borrowing 24.2 right
Okay.
now.
Right.
So
But that
it's-
24.2
I got it.
includes the
Okay.
$300,000. So if we
Yeah.
end up
I'm not
with that.
suggesting, yeah, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting we spend it. I just want to know the rules. so
Oh, I
that
was.
when we-
We don't? Yes.
No,
I mean, we had discussed it previously.
I mean, we should talk
and
about it
It's nothing
intelligently.
new.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something relevant, and the fields are way out there.
Sure.
The school is a distance away. We don't wanna waste time, travel time,
Right.
and where are we gonna put the equipment that goes,
We brought
I
the
would
plumbing out there,
suggest-
right?
yeah.
Didn't we,
We did
there's
electric
something
water.
out there, there's,
Is there water?
That's where the pump
Oh, it's a conduit.
source
It's
is,
conduit.
but there's no, there's not a drain, there's not, like, you couldn't put toilets there.
You can't have water there because it was had to do
No.
with,
Right.
There's definitely electricity.
Board of Health, right?
Yeah,
pump
there's a
changes-
hydrant
the pump
nearby.
There's a lot,
changes
there's a
for-
lot of
But
plumbing code.
We
irrigation
brought
system.
electricity there.
Electricity.
Oh, there's
brought
elect- yeah,
electricity.
there's
That's
electricity
the one
there.
utility
Irrigation
we
pumps.
brought.
Yeah, there's some stubbed up in the slab.
What were you
I
gonna say,
believe.
Carol?
I was just gonna say, just in case it doesn't happen in this, this part of this project, we did put it on the CIP list. So there is a submission on the CIP list. I don't know if it'll get funded, but there is a submission on the CIP list for a shed at the Pembroke School, anticipating exactly what Tilly's saying. When we start to move things, we're gonna actually have lawnmowers and things that need to be moved, and we're not gonna have a place to move them. And the last thing we wanna do is throw a storage pond, on that new, beautiful new facility to take care of that. So we are anticipating that that is something that needs to be done, whether it's from this project, CIP, or some other project. We do need to plan on having that shed installed so that when we really start moving stuff, we can move the things that absolutely need to be housed in a shed like that.
And is there any other thing on your list or on the list or on any list or in anybody's minds that we should be thinking about? I'd just like to
I don't know,
understand
I think
everything
that
before.
That's the first time I've thought about it, but,
So maybe that's a topic for next meeting or something, to come up with
Yeah.
ideas. And
Not,
Unless the contractor will throw it in after all he's made out of us. I mean, that would be a
No,
nice
that's not gonna
gesture.
happen.
Well, it's a holiday season.
It's Christmas is coming
it'll
up.
be our holiday present, right?
It's not gonna happen.
Probably not.
Don't ask, you won't get.
So why don't we think about that and bring that up as an agenda item
That's
for
right.
next meeting?
Yeah, I'll talk to Al.
Yep, right, so,
So Madam Chair, I make a
all
motion,
right,
if I may,
so, wait, we're done talking about change orders
Change
10 and
orders.
11, right? You're-
or are we
Carl's
still
all
talking
through. No,
about?
Carl, you're through, right? Explaining 10 and 11, that's everything. Yeah, then we gotta get into the lead points, so, oh, sorry, George.
I was gonna ask if the potential 22 potential change orders, they involve credits too?
There are some
There's a
small
couple
credits in
ones,
there,
yeah.
yes.
And what do you anticipate next month for change orders?
There's one that I think we're gonna talk about in a little bit. There's a change to add something that attaches to the mechanical units, it's around $20,000, it's one, a single item is about 20. What that means, where we'll be, I think you'll probably see, and I'm just picking a number out of my head, George, without pulling up the spreadsheet, I think you'll see a change order next month of about $40,000 or a little less. Because there's some odds and ends. When you get to the end of the job, you think, well, we're all done. Then you get the odds and ends. There's odds and ends, and always as you get, Jeff's nodding, he's been there. You get to the end of the job, there's odds and ends. We're picking up the odds and ends. We're trying to do it now, so we don't get to the end and have all these crazy ones. I like to clean them up as they happen. But yes, you will continue to have change orders right up to the end. We're just trying to minimize them each time we bring them through. But as far as big items, big scary items like unsuitable soils, I think we're done there.
Okay.
I said, I think, remember that.
All right.
Court, think.
Do you wanna do it, or do you want me to make a motion?
What you say, and then somebody say so moved.
Okay, all right, I'd like, somebody wanted to do it. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve change order number 10 and 11 as presented. So number 10 is for $321,363.99. 11 is for $4,960.49.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so change order 10 and 11 are approved. And then Carl, you can talk to us about the lead update and the points and everything?
Hopefully, briefly.
Okay.
Mostly. You know, the school is applying for the LEED certification at the silver level, which is, allows the district to get 2 additional reimbursement points from the MSBA, so that it's worth a lot of money, in addition to being both energy saving and environmentally conscious.
Yes.
And the way LEED works is a big scorecard system, and you have to get so many points. There are a few in each category that are required that you do, and others are optional as to how you get to the, and the total that we're trying to achieve is 50 points on this project in the LEED for Schools version 2009. And the final tally isn't known until the project is complete and closed out, because a lot of data is needed from the construction itself, and a lot of proof. You basically have to show that you actually built it the way your plans showed it, and then they can certify it, for instance. So right now we're at an interim point. We've made a submission, back 6 months ago or more, based on just the drawings. In other words, with them reviewing the drawings, they look at the points that we are submitting for, and they give us feedback. And the technical terms they give us is either it's anticipated or it's pending. Those are the 2 basic terms, or attempted, I'm sorry. There are ones that they say, I guess there's 3 possible. Attempted, but it still requires, they can't pass judgment on it until the project is complete, because it's related to construction directly. Anticipated means, yeah, it looks like all the data's here, and that you'll probably get that point. Pending means they usually have some kind of question that they're asking for more documentation or clarification or something like that. Typically, we go for more than 50 because we know there's going to be some points that are not achieved, or there's some controversy or back and forth. So we're attempting 56 points right now. And of those, we got feedback on about 40 of them that are sort of in the attempted, or anticipated rather. 16 of them they've asked for, are in the pending category. They've asked for more information or clarification, or in some cases, let me read you one. One that's maybe sort of typical. Controllability of thermal systems comfort. This is a point about individuals having control of their thermal comfort. That's actually a positive thing from an energy conscious point of view. You want people to be comfortable, but you also want to save energy by having them adjust the heat or the cooling to just what they need, not more, not less. So we provided documentation. They say, however, the documentation does not demonstrate that at least 50% of the space occupants have ability to make adjustments, blah, 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 blah. Their advice, please provide documentation such as narrative and drawings to demonstrate at least 50% of the occupants are provided. So they're looking for more information. But to be honest, some of these we probably won't get. That's why we're up at 56. One of the ones that right now is not included in that, and is on the proposed change order list because it came along fairly late, has to do with monitoring air quality inside the building, specifically carbon dioxide, in other words, what we exhale, tied into the ventilation system. So on the wall, you can have a thermostat. You can also have a super duper thermostat that also measures carbon dioxide. And even if the temperature is satisfied, if it senses that the carbon dioxide is building up, in other words, there's not enough fresh air in the space, then it turns on the fans and you get more fresh air. You can open the window too.
Seriously?
We have a system. We have a system, Stu, that actually is going to tell us when to open the windows. When the fans are off, And the
Isn't it
temperature
usually when
outside
people
is
turn
good.
blue, that's when we start opening the window?
When they start falling asleep, that's
Yeah,
what teachers,
exactly.
that's how you know.
Well, in our
Exactly.
homes, we're required to have
Yeah.
carbon dioxide.
No, you're not carbon
No,
monoxide.
no, that's
Carbon
carbon
monoxide.
monoxide. That's
That's
very
totally
different.
different.
That's very
Oh, really?
different.
This is carbon dioxide.
This is what you exhale,
This
this
is
is the
what, yeah,
good stuff.
it's not, it's,
Carbon
But you don't want
monoxide
too much
stuff
of
that
it,
comes out
you
of
need
a-
Makes you
fresh
sleepy.
air, makes you sleepy, tired.
sorry. I
The
got
other one
nitrogen
knocks you out
down.
pretty badly.
So, when we put out the specs, we didn't have those carbon dioxide sensors in every classroom.
It's
Um,
not,
You want them in every one of them?
it's not.
It's not
It's
typical,
not-
and
it's
it's
not
right at the
typical.
borderline. The requirement to meet the point is, any space that has 25 people or more per 1,000 square feet. We have classrooms that probably have 24 people at 900 square feet. We're right at the boundary, we're actually, so we are a little bit over the threshold. And that's why it came to light during our lead submittal. And so we asked for a proposal, from the contractor, how much would it cost to put one of those in every classroom? And that's the $60,000.
it's 61,000.
And that's why we're talking about it tonight, because in a sense, a lot
We
of
have to
these
get to the
points
point, yeah.
have price tags to them. This one, we know the price tag pretty specifically now, that to get that 1 point is an extra 60,000. The good news is,
Sorry, I was falling asleep. What did
and maybe this
Check our
cuts it short.
Monitor over there.
Even though, we can't stand here and guarantee tonight that we're gonna hit the 50, we feel pretty good about the other points, that even though they've challenged and asked questions about 16 of them, we think we're gonna get, enough to get to the 50. And even if, without this one, without the $60,000 one, and even if we didn't, and we got near the end, we could add it at that time,
Yeah.
for probably close to the same cost.
Okay.
So, I
What-
think that makes the decision
Like
relatively
40,000.
easy tonight to
Right.
say, let's not invest in this right now.
I'd agree on that.
We'll see how we
Right.
do on it.
So I just have
Good
two questions.
presentation.
I just
Right
have two
answer.
questions. So, have you
We have
put
to
carbon
tell you now.
dioxide
Yeah, you have
detectors
to
in
let
any
you
other
know.
schools?
However, when the time
Carbon
comes,
monoxide?
you get
Dioxide, this is carbon dioxide.
Oh.
Have you put
We
these sensors
have,
in any other schools?
in like assembly spaces, we do, like in the cafeteria, in the gym.
And the band room.
We actually
Okay, but I'm
have
talking in
those.
every classroom, because that's what we're talking
No,
about too.
we haven't put them in every
Okay.
classroom.
Have
We
you?
haven't gone for that point
Okay.
in other projects.
But we
No,
just see
do
them, as
it
Carl
makes
said, like in auditoriums.
Well, like,
Okay,
We're in auditoriums
We
all
haven't
the
in a-
time.
that's
in
fine, that's fine, I
cafeteria.
get that. Okay, but we haven't done them in anything.
on our mitigation.
And
We're more
then-
than that,
What's our drop deadline date to,
No.
This can be done
We could do it
towards
at the
end of
very
class.
end, like a month before the school opens.
okay, so you guys are gonna keep this on the back burner right now?
Yeah.
And if it comes to the point where we're below 50 points and we think we're gonna need this, or if we're teetering between
Right.
50 to 51 and we're
Well,
just
no,
not
we're-
sure,
We'll bring it back up.
we will do that, but
Right.
Yeah, I
at
think
this point,
that's,
I don't even think we need to take a vote on this,
No,
really.
no,
I
no.
think we're,
no.
But there
Okay.
is a change order request that we do need to bring forward to you that does have to happen. And Courtney's gonna present that one to you. We don't have a handout for you, but
Right.
she can explain it to you. It's above the limit of what your subcommittee would normally look at, and it's something that is time sensitive to the project. It's a code requirement, it has to happen. We just wanted to give you status.
Right, we have the actual PCO that the contractor submitted. I don't have the actual proposal, I have one copy of the proposal request. And this is a code issue, it's in response to our commissioning agent. So we're excited that our commission agent is looking at the drawings and finding some things. There were some holes with smoke detectors and dampers that are put inside the ductwork. They're sensors that trigger and, close off the ductwork, so if there is a fire in the
Smoke
ductwork,
that up into the ductwork.
it's gonna sense
shut
it
down
and
the
shuts
fan.
down
Doesn't go
the
everywhere,
system.
So it doesn't spread it through the
Creates like a
building.
Right.
chimney is what it
And
does.
there's several locations where we had them in the drawings and everything, but there were a few locations where they were not in, or they got relocated, the ductwork was relocated at the end of the design, and the electrical portion, the wiring of those did not get in.
Didn't keep up with it.
So it was, there was one that was missed on HVAC, and the rest of it is all electrical work. So this is the price for the electrician to go in and wire up all those units and tie them into the BMS.
And this one would be very helpful, as it's
It's
asking
a-
questions.
it's
We'd like to
a-
vote, we'd like to see you vote it. It's not, we don't have a change order for you right now.
Right,
But because we're gonna include it into the next change order.
Yep.
Since these two change orders had a lot of items, we didn't wanna cloud it and hold it.
You guys check the prices on this. like
We did, oh,
This
This
has been
has
on
been
the
on
table
since
for a long
July.
time, back and forth, because
Right.
it came
this
in
started
higher.
almost 30.
yeah.
It was up there,
Yep.
the high 20s. We found some things in that didn't need to be done, and the engineers working for DRA said, well, hold on a second, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do this is what
Right.
you have to do, and it really brought the number down.
Okay,
So this is unfortunately one we have to do,
okay.
not like the 60,000 for the, this one we have to do. 'cause
Right.
it's a
And it's
code
one-third the
requirement.
price.
So, we'd like to see if you could take at least make a vote, we'll put it into the next change order, but make a vote to put it, to move it forward.
Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion to go ahead and put this into the next change order and move it forward for the, for the duct work and the smoke detectors for $20,494.37.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So you said this is a lead?
No,
No,
this
this
is
is
a code
code.
No,
requirement.
code requirement.
And this is all just new work going in, it's
Correct.
not correcting
Right.
any
Not
other.
modifying
Right.
anything. And again, like they said, the sensors are in there, it's running a wire to them. It's just a lot of them.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? No, all in favor?
Okay.
Aye. Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
That's all we got. That's all
All
I got.
right.
Question on, one question on the lead.
done?
You have us down for on-site renewable energy, you're only putting in for 1 point,
Yep,
even with the solar.
yep.
Yep.
That's, with the solar panels, there's a graduated index, sort of, depending on what percentage of the electrical demand load that you can supply with on-site.
Yeah, because it's 1 to 7 points,
And
and
with-
we're just putting in 1, right?
With the amount of PVs we have on that cafeteria roof, we're generating 1% of the electrical demand.
You
So,
would need significantly more to really see that number
to
go up.
get the second point, you gotta go up to
Very
3%. We'd have to triple the area.
And it just isn't the spots.
That
Those
would be
probably-
another $60,000 price tag.
Those PPPVs probably aren't gonna go in until next year as well. They probably won't come up this spring. But they'll be in before the schools open.
But if we need 2 more points, we'll keep that in mind, George, because that one at
There's
least has
interest.
payback.
Right.
You save money in the long
Right.
run.
That's enough.
If we're gonna spend 60,000,
You've got the
maybe we'll do that
infrastructure,
one.
you've got the roofs, so.
All right, do you guys have anything else, or? Nope, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, good night.
Thank you. A lot of information.